Guys, Phoenix Spring Tarot. So in this video, this is going to be a bit of a different video to what we're used to doing. Firstly, in this, what we'll be looking at is a clip from the Shawn Ryan show that went viral about a year ago. Now, in this clip of the Shawn Ryan show, Shawn Ryan is interviewing an army psychic by the name of Angela Ford. So some of you may be familiar with this clip. And in the clip, so Shawn Ryan interviews her. It's about an interview that runs for about, how long did they have? 2 hours. So it's about close to 3 hours. They talk and they talk about, let me just fix this camera. Bring it closer. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, so in this, they talk about a number of issues from UFOs to Angela Ford's experience working with the army and doing remote viewing and what remote viewing is all about. And Shawn Ryan is asking her a number of different questions. But there's one particular point in this interview, it doesn't even last more than 30 seconds, that just completely blew up. It went completely viral. And it's the point where Shawn Ryan asks Angela Ford about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And I will let you watch the clip. But what we're going to do after we watch the clip, so I'll put the clip on, we'll watch it all the way through. I'll also insert Angela Ford's reaction to the clip, because this I hadn't seen. I only saw it earlier this week, and it reminded me that I needed to do this video. So she was in another podcast, another interview, and she reacted to what was going on for her at the time of watching this, right? So we'd also discuss that. And very lastly, to say before we get into it, I am so sure Shawn Ryan had a reaction to this interview, and he spoke to someone about his reaction to the interview. I know I saw it, but for some reason, I can't find it. But I know that Shawn Ryan was saying in that moment when he was speaking to her, I don't want to put words in his mouth, especially when I don't have the clip, but I remember Shawn Ryan saying that he was petrified by the way she just switched on him and the energy in the room switched. Like, that's my memory of what he said. Okay, so let's get into this.
Some way, I do believe that there was a man named Jesus that walked the earth. But there were other people too that were here to teach lessons. My biggest thing was what happens after we go on. I'm interested to know, do we come in reincarnation? I've asked, do we come back?
What do you believe happens when we die?
I just think you're kind of I think you go over with, I believe that you go on and that you're reunited with your soul family or with your karma group. The way I understand it is that we come into this life with our karma group. Then karma, we have karma, good karma and bad karma. So the same people that I was with, I just think that we come back, and we come back with the same people.
Really?
I believe in I do.
What is a karma group?
Well, it's the same. Like, in other words, the people you know now, you knew before in a past life. Did you ever go somewhere and just felt like you knew somebody or that you've been there before?
Yes.
Yeah, I've known you. Yeah, yeah.
I would say at this point, just to interject, yes, that's roughly true. In terms of the karma group and your soul group, would usually consider your tribe, like close family, close friends, etc. But just to add to that, because let's make this educational, let's make this beneficial for us as well. Another angle of that, like, I remember tuning in and channeling this information, and the way they showed it to me is when you want to reincarnate again, you could want to have certain experiences because you want to explore how certain things feel, or you want to learn a particular lesson, you want to have a particular realization. So it's not necessarily your soul group that may teach you this. You may look and venture outside your soul group. So the way they showed it to me is like you're at a table. The way they showed it to me, you're at a table and you're planning out your life, and you're planning out at certain key milestones of your life, what certain things ought to happen to put you in that path of realization and awareness, all right, or to experience the thing that you've reincarnated to experience. There are certain milestones that you anchor in and you predetermine to just ensure that you stay on your path. Whatever happens in between those milestones, though, is completely up to you, and this is where your free choice comes in. Now, in order for those key milestones to come in or be realized, you may ask for other people to come into your life to help you have those experiences. So it doesn't necessarily, so people may volunteer and yet say, yes, I could be the bad guy here to have you experience this, or I could be the angel here that helps rescue you at this situation, and then you change your life around and you become a helper for others. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your soul group or your family. It could be other people. And the way they showed it to me was, it's like asking for volunteers. Who wants to volunteer to do this? Who wants to volunteer to be my stepmom? Who wants to volunteer to meet me at the age of 18 when I'm making my university choices and advise me to go for doctor instead? And someone will say, I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. Fine. You're locked in. All right. So that's the way it was explained to me. Let's continue.
What do you think deja vu is?
The remembering of a past life.
Do you think it's the remembering of a past life?
Yeah, if it happened before, either you were at that place. I felt like I had that with a couple of my animals.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think what?
Why do you think that we travel with a karma group?
Because it just makes, because we have things to work out with them, I guess.
Who would be in that karma group?
Friends, relatives, friends, people that you meet all through your life. Everybody that you know.
Everybody everybody in your sphere of.
You would know. I think it was explained to me, like, you've got 1 million people will leave this earth, and then 1 million people come down to replace the 1 million people that left.
Do we immediately come back?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I think you kind of have to wait for your karma group to figure out, if you come back this time, are you going to be my mother or my sister or my father? Or
why do you think that we come back? What have you?
Okay. They may come on to this a bit later, but in terms of if you come back, you have to wait on this person and you have to wait on that person. I'm not too sure about that. I think it really varies, and it's more free-flowing and more organic than that. So, for instance, you'd hear stories of people who may have a relative that passes away, let's say an uncle, a grandmother, a grandfather who passes away. And let's say you have a birth at the same time, and many people feel that it's the loved one who passed away that's reincarnated, for example. And sometimes, particularly from what I've channeled, you could have people who pass on, but their lives would have been so traumatic that it's almost as if they need a spiritual timeout, or their spirit needs to heal and they need to reconnect with their oversoul. So sometimes that could happen. And sometimes you're just happy wanting to be over on the other side. You've had your experience and you're there guiding people and being there and being a support system for those loved ones who are still living their lives. So from my perspective, I'm not saying that Angela Ford is wrong in this case. In fact, for everything that she's saying in this clip that we're looking at, I'm not saying that she's wrong at all. I'm just offering what my experience has been and just another perspective. Okay.
Experience that makes you believe.
Probably to get better into whatever errors we have, try to replace them. There's a reason why we come back. Do we need to learn more love? Do we need to learn more patience?
Have you had any experiences that solidify your beliefs?
Not really. I mean, I don't have any scientific evidence. I did have one woman put me through a past life. And I don't know if it's true. It was sort of like a hypnotic state where you kind of go and visualize a past life. And I think I was in Nova Scotia growing wheat. I remember that. But I remember also there was a religion there that was very strict. I can remember in whatever under that session, I remembered belonging to an organized religion that was very strict. And so when I came out of that, I probably figured, well, the Catholic religion that I grew up with probably that energy was probably coming from that energy from that past life. And so somehow maybe I cleared myself of it in this life.
Have you?
Now, this is something that a lot of people missed in terms of watching the commentary, and that clip about Shawn Ryan is going to ask the question now, which made this part of the reading this part of his video, go viral. But a lot of people who do the commentary for this, some people miss this very important that commentary that I've seen. Some people miss this very important point where she's saying that she went to a hypnosis session. The hypnosis session did past life regression on her. Dolores Cannon, if you know Dolores Cannon, she's the one who has had lots of stories, or she's delivered lots of stories of the experiences where she's taken people into hypnosis. She's taken people under, and she's gone to people's past lives, right? So Dolores Cannon, just in case anyone knows, she was someone who did that and made that quite popular. Now, what she's talking about religion, being in Nova Scotia, and there was this very, very strict organized religion that she was a part of. Like, from what she's saying, that was a traumatic experience for her, right? So when she connected with that, and earlier on in this video, we don't have it in this clip, she talked about walking away from Catholicism. And she said when she walked away from Catholicism, which she associated with this experience, she said that her psychic abilities expanded. That's very interesting. The reason why it's interesting, and I'm going to say, in fact, let's hold that, really, really hold it, and let's continue. We'll come back to that point.
Have you tried to look into religion at all, such as the Crucifixion? Do you have? Do you not want to talk about that? Okay. Do you want to talk about, you had mentioned you had a UFO experience.
Yeah, but I was 13 years old.
And she comes back to life with the UFO experience. Now, when I first watched that clip, you know, when you have or experience like a stone or a rock in your stomach, that was my experience to it. And in fact, I'm still even feeling it again. So everyone's saying that Angela Ford freaked out, she spazzed out, she, from looking at the clip, that's their impression. She froze, she could not answer the question and everything else. And in here, I'm going to insert a clip where I'm going to go into this first because, let's give Angela Ford time to speak and, discuss what this episode was about and what she was experiencing. So I'll insert that clip here as to what she said that she was experiencing during this moment with Shawn Ryan.
And this I'm only asking because there would be definitely a follow-up question here by my audience. I can foresee it already. When you were on the Shawn Ryan show, you had stopped at a certain question. You know what I'm referring to?
Everybody asked about that.
Have you tried to look into religion at all, such as the Crucifixion? Do you have? Do you not want to talk about that? Okay.
And I'd be a poor interviewer if I didn't ask it myself.
Okay, first of all, I was shocked that he asked the question. When he asked the question, I was in shock. But I stopped because there was no way I was going to answer that question on that podcast, because I do know that he gets a lot of his audience is mainstream. A lot of his audience is mainstream. So there was no way I was going to I was just not going to answer that. But no, I did not. But the truth of the matter is no, I did not remote view the crucifixion.
Okay.
I think it was just more in shock that he had asked it. He kind of asked it excitedly, or he thought I don't know.
You just weren't comfortable.
Oh, no, I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, it's a strange question to be comfortable with.
But people can remote view the past. So
Yeah.
if you want to, but I wouldn't want to remote view the crucifixion. That would be so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. And what do you take from that, right? As a remote viewer, you're like, well, it's horrific.
Yeah, who would? Yeah, and I remember they would do. I think one of the remote viewing sites we had was Mossad. I would remember how the Jews took.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the very first time I did I don't even know why we would have even had.
So, as you could see, she didn't really answer the question. She didn't really say it. She pivoted. Like, to me, what I picked up from that, from her body language and seeing her body language, that she appeared to me to be still relatively uncomfortable going back to that place. Now, there are a few things that I wanted to say and something that I channeled regarding her experience here with Shawn Ryan and what she mentioned in that clip providing feedback on it. Well, firstly, if you go back, remember she was talking about religion and leaving religion. When you would choose to leave something or cut something out of your life, your religion is, and especially in those days, back in the medieval period, etc., how religion was used. Religion was such a huge part of your life and your identity and your being. Religion would have, particularly, you always hear me say, we are multidimensional beings. We're mental, emotional, spiritual, etheric, auric. I always talk about that when we talk about, as this is just with this physical vessel we're in, that's just one aspect and one element, right? We consist of so much more. So with religion would have formed a very important anchor and space in your spiritual body, in your physical body, in your identity, everything. So when you choose to remove that, whatever you choose to remove, and listen very carefully, whatever you choose to remove, it's always important that you replace that. So if you have a negative, let's say, emotional connection, let's say with religion, as she's saying in this case, and in the religion in Nova Scotia, and in this life with Christianity, if you choose to remove that, that's up to you, free choice. You have your reasons, justified in doing it. But whatever you remove, you need to replace. And it's what you replace it with. And usually you want to replace it with something that is of a higher vibration frequency, or at least more aligned or closer aligned to you, would be that thing of a higher vibration frequency. So some people may decide to walk away from their own religion and replace it with another that they feel is more aligned with them. Some people may decide, well, I don't want religion anymore. I want to go on this journey. I want to explore spiritualism. I want to just explore something else. That's all part and parcel of you going on a journey, seeking that knowledge, seeking that higher vibration replacement. You're seeking a replacement, firstly, and you're seeking a replacement that's more aligned to you. When you don't replace that with something, you leave a void, you leave a cavity in that emotional body, in that as multidimensional aspect of you, you leave a void that's gaping open. And chances are, and they're giving this to me right now, that void, whatever comes in, many times you wouldn't be aware of what comes in, but whatever is coming in to fill that void would be of the same or similar vibration frequency to what left. First, number one. Number two, they're giving this to me now as well. Religion, spirituality are some of the concepts where you could see the extreme of duality at play as well. Our spiritual body is the one that's most connected with our higher self, our aspect of us that is most connected with our oversoul, with our higher self, and the channel to the divine, where we get life force energy. The thing about demons and the thing about dark entities is that they are the ones who have turned away from God. They have turned away from whatever term I'm using God here, but you could replace it with light consciousness, the universe, whatever term you choose to use, right? We get our life force energy from that. Dark entities, spirits, etc., they don't derive their energy from the divine source or from the divine light or God, because they've turned their backs on God. For whatever reason, they've turned their backs on God. So what they rely on is seeking that energy from people, places, and things. So this is where the term energy vampire comes in, energy vampirism, because you're basically sucking that God life force energy out of people, out of places, out of things, out of entities. So this is where spirit attachments could come in and they could anchor in. And many times you don't know who is attaching yourself to you. And one of the reasons why is because when you choose to walk away from something that's such a huge part of your identity and you make that choice, and we're not here to judge whatever that choice is, everyone has free will. But the key takeaway here is that you have to replace it. You have to replace it, number one, and aim to replace it with something that is of a higher vibration frequency, that it's uplifting, that it's closest or as close as possible that you can manage to your life force energy. Right? Now, what I picked up that's happening here is, so that's some background context to where she is right now. And what I find is really interesting is that in this clip of her with Shawn Ryan, and even like this is about 9 months later, you know, she's doing another podcast and you could see she's still unsettled and she gives an answer, but from my perspective, the answer isn't quite convincing. And it makes you wonder, like for me personally, I would dig into why this makes you so uncomfortable to the point where your eyes are just moving side to side. It's almost as if something came forward in her body and she went back. Many times when people are some channels, some mediums, this happens, and it's called trance channeling. And in trance channeling, what happens is that you go to the background and another entity comes down and comes in, and they sort of use you and use your vessel to communicate a message. So you sort of go to the background. So for instance, with Daryl Anker, when he's channeling Bashir, that's what's happening. Daryl Anker sort of goes to the back. The entity that is Bashir, or the collective that is, well, the Bashir is not a collective, it's an entity, comes in, and then he speaks. I bid you good day. And his voice, Daryl Anker's voice, completely changes. Right? So when I see this and I'm seeing her here, it's almost as if in that moment when Shawn Ryan mentioned, you know, the crucifixion, it's as if she went in the background and someone else came forward. And usually when you're doing that, particularly as a trance channel, you should have, one would have control over that. That just doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. You could tell that she did not have that conscious awareness of this happening. And whatever entity came forward that perhaps was helping her through that conversation and that perhaps helps her remote view, whatever came forward looked petrified and it looked scared, like the eyes were moving back and forth. The eyes were moving side to side. Moving your eyes side to side, I can't remember what technique this is, but I would find it and I'll put up the name here, but the moving of the eyes side to side, like left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. When you find yourself in a stressful situation and you want to, let's say, disconnect, moving the eyes side to side, I believe is one way that they've said that you could do it. And I'll find something about it, but it's an actual exercise, is a known thing, but I'll find out about it and I'll put it in here. So whoever came up to the surface was trying to do that, to get the energy of Christ and the crucifixion and God dying for our sins, to get it out of the body, to get that vibration frequency out. That's how That's what I'm interpreting from this. Anything else do I want to say on this? The last thing I want to say is, and I raise this because I have a reading that's coming about the collapse of the spiritual industrial complex. So we have that reading, especially with the Deepak Chopra and Epstein and the Dalai Lama and all of that. So I have that reading coming. So this, you can view it as a prequel to that. And in terms of exploring spirituality and exploring religion, the reason why I'm bringing this to the forefront is that exploring spirituality and religion and so on is not anything to be afraid of, or not something to be wary of. It's a part of our multidimensional selves and being, our spirituality, an important part. When this physical vessel goes, it's your spirit that and your soul that remains and lives on. So exploring that, it's a beautiful thing to do. But it's just understanding certain things to look out for. And when you see certain things happening, understanding what it is that you're looking at. Okay, so that's what I'm doing this. And also just to finally say that in terms of not wanting to channel, and she was saying, channel the crucifixion, and she was saying, oh my goodness, this was so painful. Why would anyone want to channel that? There is something really interesting about that response. It's sort of throwing it back. We know of Jesus Christ walking the earth and dying. It's like it's the story of all time. Why wouldn't you want to know about the crucifixion and what happened? I had a friend of mine who was actually part of, who was a trance channel, interestingly enough. And through her, she's a trance channel, and one of her past lives was being with Mary Magdalene around the time of Jesus being alive. And I was able to see from the eyes of her perspective what that experience was like, what it was like living in those days. And I was able to channel an element of when Jesus had passed and he had risen up from the tomb, and them going to the tomb to see Jesus's body. Like I was able to channel that through her. Like I was remotely viewing it through her eyes. You know? This is why I always say that when doing this work, I always start off readings with setting the intention. And the intention is always you want to connect to the highest truth, the highest light. You want to connect to the divine, the highest truth and the highest light only. You know, always set that intention. You set that intention in anything that you do. You want to have the best day. You want to have people that you meet in your day that lift you up. And protection and shielding yourself from lower vibration energies. You know? But the Christ and the crucifixion and, you know, God dying for our sins. And, you know, this man who some people call him an ascended master, some people call him a God, irrespective of what label you want to put on him, or is not really that important, but what he represented and stood for, and the sacrifice of himself so that we could have that message. And it's interesting that this is coming around East and during Lent and Easter and that sort of thing. I'm just putting that together now. So to be afraid and not want to speak about that, and your eyes are just going back and forth, but not back and forth, left to right, left to right, left to right, is interesting. Okay, guys, so I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye for now.